Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in.
Okay, happy Thursday everybody. Before we begin, I wanted to make a clarification. It appears that there was some confusion regarding comments made in yesterday's video. Yesterday we noted that state-run Xinhua had launched a new anti-US commentary series titled Beware of the Rhetorical Trap of De-Risking. I expressed that one analyst, tweeting on the series, took the words right out of my mouth when he observed, I then quote the analyst, quote, "The themes in these articles are familiar. De-risking is just decoupling by another name, and bad for everyone, and the problems in the US-China relationship are all America's fault." End quote. To clarify, what I agree with, the proverbial words right out of my mouth, is that these are indeed the themes contained within these state media articles, themes which we are all very familiar with, as we have followed similar state media articles for some time now. I was not saying that I agree with the themes themselves. On China Update, we often examine state media and other domestic Chinese commentaries, not because I necessarily agree or disagree with the observations, themes, and propositions contained therein. Indeed, my own subjective views are largely irrelevant to this exploration, but rather so that we have a grounded sense of elite worldviews in Beijing and the information environment in which policymakers, the intelligentsia, and wider public audience operates in. And, of course, to simply be aware of official PRC positions on certain matters. I do believe that most regular China Update viewers understand this, but perhaps there are some viewers who needed a gentle reminder. Now, let's begin. In a sign of how concerned top leadership have become on the state of the economy, and after years of first sporadic crackdowns, then the housing crisis and zero COVID have battered the non-public sector, yesterday, Wednesday, the Party Central Committee and the State Council, China's cabinet, issued a joint pledge to better support private businesses. The pledge came after a lower-than-expected GDP growth in the second quarter, which we examined on Monday, as well as record high youth unemployment, which we examined yesterday. The fact that the pledge was made jointly with a party organ, rather than just a state organ, is significant. According to state-run CCTV, Beijing pledged to make the private economy, quote, bigger, better and stronger, end quote, by creating a first-class market-oriented business environment and cultivating a, quote, close and clean relationship between businesses and the government, end quote. The 31-point so-called Opinions on the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China and the State Council on Promoting the Development and Growth of the Private Economy includes measures for the protection of private property rights of private firms and enterprises, ensuring fair market competition by breaking down market entry barriers, and improving the way credit is recorded and shared to provide incentives to companies with good credit and imposing penalties to dishonest ones. Will this public commitment to the private sector have its desired effects? Quote, perhaps this renewed demonstration of affection for the private sector will work in boosting confidence and reviving animal spirits, but it is understandable if some private entrepreneurs remain wary, given both the history of the party's treatment of private business and some of the language in the document. End quote. Let us look at this language. Section 21. Improve the mechanism for ideological and political construction of private economy figures. Actively explore and innovate the ways of party building in the field of private economy. Section 23. Guide private entrepreneurs to enhance their patriotic feelings. Section 28. Educate and guide private enterprises to consciously bear the social responsibility of promoting common prosperity and enthusiastically participate in glorious causes and public welfare charities, participate in emergency relief, and support national defense construction. Several high-profile business leaders, including billionaire Tencent founder Pony Ma, penned opinions timed with the release of these new measures, singing their praise. The WeChat owner expressed, for example, quote, "This has made us feel greatly encouraged and inspired," End quote. Whether these sentiments are sincere, or whether Pony Ma is just Pai Ma Pi, is hard to say. Next up, US-China relations. Former US Secretary of State Henry Kissinger is still in China after his meeting with PRC Defense Minister Li. The centenarian met with China's top diplomat Wang. According to the official readout of the meeting, Wang expressed that, quote, US policy towards China needs Kissinger-style diplomatic wisdom and Nixon-style political courage, end quote, adding, quote, Taiwan independence is incompatible with peace across the Taiwan Strait. If the United States sincerely hopes for stability across the Taiwan Strait, it should clearly and openly oppose Taiwan independence and draw a clear line with Taiwan independence separatist activities, end quote. It is unclear whether Kissinger, described in state media as China's old friend, will meet with General Secretary Xi Jinping. Meanwhile, PRC ambassador to the United States, Xie Feng, spoke on US-China relations at the Aspen Security Forum this week. The former vice foreign minister discussed Washington's technology restrictions on Chinese firms, a theme which we on China Update have been following for some time now, at one point employing a rather colourful metaphor, saying, quote, this is like restricting the other side to wear outdated swimwear at a swimsuit competition while you yourself are wearing a Speedo, end quote. That's a real quote. Xie said that China wishes to improve US-China relations, but that on Taiwan, Beijing has no space for compromise. Quote, it's like a grey rhino charging at us, your Taiwan policy, end quote. US-based commentators responding to this criticism from Xie observed that Washington has only increased its interactions with Taiwan in response to Beijing's own more bellicose words and actions in recent years. On the theme of the technology war, this week the US House Select Committee on China notified several venture firms, namely GGV Capital, GSR Ventures, Walden International, and Qualcomm Ventures, that their deals in Chinese technology are now the subject of congressional investigations. U.S. financial media outlet The Wall Street Journal reports that the House committee says that these Chinese deals, quote, threaten U.S. national security and have been involved in human rights violations. By extension, the American firm's investments directly contribute to these human rights abuses, China's military mobilization, and its effect to supplant U.S. technological leadership, end quote. This concern, which has been discussed in some quarters in the US and other Western allies, is now becoming a much more mainstream conversation. For example, this is from UK-based Financial Times this week. Quote, China's test of a hypersonic weapon that circumnavigated the globe in 2021 provided a startling reminder that the country has become a formidable military rival to the US even faster than expected. Pentagon experts were stunned that Chinese scientists had developed a missile that was able to fire another projectile as it flew at hypersonic speed. But the episode sent another clear message. China was using American technology to undermine US security. Chinese supercomputers involved in delivering hypersonic weapons, for example, were running on chips that used US software, end quote. Next up, a new sobering report. Hey guys, if you enjoyed today's episode of China Update, don't forget to hit that like button. It's just me making these episodes every day. It's a lot of work, but your guys' support is a huge source of motivation. Subscribing and sharing is a huge help as well, and for those who can go the extra mile and help me keep the channel financially sustainable, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below. Thank you so much, everybody, for the ongoing support. And finally for today, Washington-based think tank, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, this week published a report on China's supply of gallium. This is an especially timely exploration. As we remember, Beijing recently signaled that the metal could be subject to export restrictions. Let's end today's video by looking at some of this report, which is titled Mineral Monopoly. China's control over gallium is a national security threat. We are now quoting salient observations within the report directly. Decades of sweeping industrial policies have afforded China a near-total monopoly over gallium, a critical mineral used to produce high-performance microchips that power some of the United States' most advanced military technologies. Recent moves by Beijing to restrict the export of gallium have laid bare the need for Washington and its allies to de-risk their critical mineral supply chains. Failing to address glaring vulnerabilities in the gallium supply chain could pose serious national security and economic challenges for the United States and its allies. China's control over gallium supply chains came about indirectly. Gallium is largely derived as a byproduct of processing the primary ore of aluminium, or aluminum for our American friends. Its production is therefore closely tied to the dynamics of global aluminium markets. The country's emergence as an industrial powerhouse has driven explosive growth in its aluminium industry, assisted by extensive government subsidies and tax incentives. China experienced a tenfold increase in aluminium production, from 4.2 to 40.2 million tons between 2000 and 2022. Today, China supplies approximately 59% of the world's aluminium. This leading position has allowed China to establish a dominant share of global gallium production. Deliberate government policies also played a role. From 2005 through 2015 alone, China's production of low-purity gallium exploded from 22 metric tons to 444 metric tons. China's rapid rise in the industry created oversupply in the global market, triggering severe fluctuations in gallium prices throughout much of the 2010s. Leading suppliers in the United Kingdom, Germany, Hungary, and Kazakhstan suffered as a result and were forced to shutter their production, leaving China as virtually the only supplier in the world. Here ends the direct quote. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much everybody for watching. Have a wonderful Thursday, and I will see you all tomorrow.